Are they looking for you?
He'll kill me if he finds me.
Yes, Inheritance, great film. Such a refreshing, grounded take on the spy genre. I know that you sort of conceptualized it during the COVID-19 pandemic, but I'd love to hear what inspired this idea.
Well, I had actually, in about April of 2020, I'd read a New York Times article about a reporter who was making his way from like Serbia to France overland. And, it's the EU and all the borders are supposed to be open, but instead there were like armed guards at every border. And then when you were in a town or a city, it was completely empty. And I was like, wow, what does that look like? And I kind of wanted to see it, but I didn't want to make a documentary about it. I wanted to create a narrative that existed in that world and started writing something. And I knew also the only way to be in that world, if you bring a film crew in, you immediately disrupt the world. Everybody starts looking at you. You don't get to see the world in its, unvarnished true quality. So, eventually things started to open up and we weren't ready in time, but I still thought that the story had, was valid and worth doing. And so we further kind of constructed it and made it into this story that went around the world. It went from, New York to Cairo to Delhi to Seoul and then back to New York, like a real circuit of the world, and truly still was looking at what was the new normal, but with this kind of narrative engine of this, international thriller. And this situation with this woman trying to unravel the secrets and political and professional and private of her father.
Well, I love that you stuck to your guns on it because it really is such a engaging, immersive way that you do it with the iPhone shooting. And I know you've talked before about how it does sort of lend some freedom to not having to wait for light setups and all of that. But I'm curious if you found sometimes in the moment it proved to be more challenging or, again, more beneficial to shoot it just this way.
I found it mostly beneficial. I had just come off a movie called The Marsh King's Daughter, which was very difficult, which we did shoot in the middle of COVID. And it was big and lumbering and in the woods and difficult to kind of get going. I'm proud of the movie, but it was, a difficult experience. And this was so liberating because we were so light on our feet. We could be so nimble. And you could be so nimble with the camera. There was no like, oh, we can't put the camera there because it's going to shadow the actor. You could just put it right in their face and then move it right down to their hands.
Kudos to you for nailing it in every scene in this film. So with this story though too, obviously Maya is very much the driving force of it. It's what's keeping us grounded in this international adventure. What was it like finding the perfect person to bring her to life?
Well, we had seen Phoebe in Bridgerton and in Fair Play, though we were already with her before Fair Play came, before I got to see Fair Play, though I think I did see a couple of scenes. She was known more for somebody playing somebody more proper and uptight and conservative. But when I interviewed Phoebe over Zoom, I was actually in Korea scouting and I don't know where she was, but I said, it's going to be like this and, it's going to be very rough and tumble and there's going to be nobody touching you up between takes and stuff like that. And she was like, I don't like people touching me. And I was like in kind of like a tough way. And I was like, right on. That's what Maya would say. And so then we sort of went from there and I was like, oh, well, she has this she's the most gentle, lovely person, but she had this ability to be tough and to be badass. And I knew from that first meeting that she could do it. She has a toughness and a wit I hadn't expected. And then of course she's incredibly talented and we've only seen a tiny aspect of what she's capable of. And, she knocked the performance out of the park.
She really did. I love the range that this role allotted her, and it truly is fascinating to watch. And so you mentioned Reese as well, and I love how Sam's backstory feels very mysterious in a lot of it. We obviously know some of his backstory with Maya and that family, but we obviously see there's a lot more to it. I'm curious how much you and Olin actually like mapped out his backstory versus what we see in the film.
We did. I mean, fully. As I said, the movie is like, it's a thriller, so it has to, all the pieces have to fit together. Even though it's shot seemingly in this kind of seat of the pants way with a guerrilla crew, it's very tightly constructed. He's a complicated and selfish character, and a sort of a not so much a self-promoter, but like an opportunist. And but what I love about Reese is that he's such an affable guy, and you like him in a way. And I wanted somebody that had that kind of affability, that you liked kind of on first look, even though his daughters don't really like him. He seems kind of reasonable. And then, we begin to learn that he has secrets.
And those secrets come to roost in this film. And I don't want to get into spoilers, but I love the way it plays out. So I love that you mapped it out the way you did. I see I'm coming close to time. So for my final question, I wanted to ask outside of the film. It's crazy to think it's been already just over a decade since the first Divergent came out. Obviously, we never got the second chapter of Allegiant, but I'm curious, have you ever thought about, or would you ever consider reviving or rebooting that franchise, especially now that YA series have become sort of popular again?
Right, and they just kind of reboot everything. I mean, I have not thought about that. I'm sure that's crossed Lionsgate's mind to do it in a different way. It was great. I'm always will be part of that franchise and happy to be part of it in some way. So, well, if they do look to bring it back, I hope that they consider bringing you back as well, because you were such a great figurehead for launching it. But in the meantime, I really look forward to getting the word out about Inheritance, Neil. I mean, truly, it is such a great film. I think both genre enthusiasts as well as just general audiences are going to really love it. So thank you for taking the time to talk about it. Appreciate it. Good talking to you.
I built something here, and I want you and I to run it together.
Doing what?
Gathering information.
Like a spy.
It's a big word.